Good morning, YouTube. This is Sammy Sleever here. I am coming up to 9 weeks post-op vertical sleeve gastrectomy. I had my surgery at North Shore Private Hospital and in Sydney, I should say. And I thought during this video I would not so much talk about what I'm eating, food, etc. I was actually going to talk about the pre-op process in Australia, because it's very, very different to the US and other places of the world. And also I thought I would share my surgery story today, because when I was investigating the surgery, I was very interested to hear people's surgery stories. So here we go. First of all, Australia is very different. Our private health insurance works much differently to the US. When I've been reading people's stories on bariatricpal.com, I have noticed so many hoops that Americans have to jump through in order to get their surgery approved. It's much different here in Australia. Basically, my surgery happened in a very short time frame. I read about the surgery. A local celebrity had the surgery. I read about it in Women's Day. I hadn't heard of it before that, and that was at the end of January. I attended an information evening by my surgeon at the end of February, and then made an appointment. Got a referral from my GP, which was very straightforward. He was very encouraging. Referral from my GP, went to see the dietitian and the surgeon on the same day. They're in the same rooms. I felt the dietitian was really the one who screened me for the surgery. She asked me questions about my eating habits, what issues I may have had with food, asked me can I leave food on my plate, all that sort of stuff. She felt I was a good candidate for the surgery. And then I went through and saw the surgeon. So the surgeon then talked to me very briefly. I mean, I had heard about the surgery in depth at the information night. He insists that we go to that first before we can have our pre-op appointment. He scheduled me for the surgery as soon as I wanted it, which was in just over 4 weeks. So March 20, by the time I had seen the article to the surgery, was just over 2 months. So that's really different to the US, where they have to have supervised diets and all sorts of tests and psychologist appointments. I didn't have to do any of that. I didn't have to have a sleep apnea test. I didn't have to see a psychologist. I didn't have to have an endoscopy. I was pretty much put on the Optifast diet for 4 weeks and then straight into surgery. So it is actually really different. The way our private health insurance works is if it is covered by your level of cover, and I had the highest cover and I'd had that for a few years, then you book in and you go. You don't need their approval. If you've got the surgeon's say so, that's it, you're on your way. The only thing I did apply for was the surgeon's gap. I paid for that out of my super. I had early release of superannuation. I had to get a referral, a form signed by my GP, form signed by the surgeon, anaesthetist quotes, letter from my health fund saying what the excess was, all of that. I had to gather all that together. It was really quite a procedure, as well as get forms witnessed by GPs, all that sort of stuff. But that came through and saved me $7,000. So that was actually quite a relief. Now the surgery day itself. Okay, so surgery week on the Tuesday, I went into the pre-op clinic. Now not everybody has to do that. North Shore Private called me and said, could I come in for a pre-op clinic? Now I had only just had all the blood tests. They test you for all sorts of things prior to the surgery. Things and all the normal ones, such as all your levels of vitamins and all that, and also coagulation studies, which you may not have before. And there was only one more set that I needed to do at the pre-op clinic, and that was blood typing in case of transfusion. I already knew my blood type, but they said it needed to be more specific than that. So that was the only one I needed to have. Chest x-ray, ECG, that was all needed. Again, I'd only just had a chest x-ray a couple of months before for asthma, so that was okay. I didn't have to have another one. So that was good. That cut down the time considerably that I needed to be at the pre-op clinic. Day of the surgery, the day before, the hospital contacted me via SMS and said, can you please be here at 6:30 a.m? I thought, great, because I didn't want to be waiting around all day, being nil by mouth and stressing about surgery. So I was happy to be up at 5 a.m, scrubbing myself with the Surgy sponge that they gave me, this antibacterial sponge, which smelled like Dettol and was really very rough. Oh, to scrub yourself with it. And your hair, you had to wash your hair with it and everything. But nevertheless, I did that about 5 o'clock in the morning. Got to the hospital. I didn't have to wait around very long at the hospital. Paid my excess. Didn't have to wait long. I think I was only waiting about 15 minutes and taken through to the pre-op area. Now, the pre-op area, they asked me to change into the gown and gave me some very stylish paper underpants and said they were optional. Luckily, they were optional because they were obviously made for non-bariatric patients and couldn't even get up over my legs, so had to abandon those. It was pretty funny, actually. All the paperwork, they went through all the paperwork. I think they must have asked me 20 times if I had any allergies, so they're very thorough. All the paperwork had been completed at the pre-op clinic, but they first of all couldn't find it, so I had to wait around for a bit for that. And then they needed to just check through a few things. Somebody came in from the anaesthetist team and again asked me if I had any allergies, how I was feeling, all of those bits and pieces. And then I was wheeled through from the bed into the little room attached to the operating theatre. I don't know what that little room is called, but that's when the anaesthetist team attended to me. I had the cannula inserted in my hand. Asked me again, did I have any allergies? And the anaesthetist, it's funny now looking back at it, but said to me, oh, after gastric surgery you often feel a bit of nausea. Oh, that was an understatement. Surgeon came in to say hello before the surgery. He was having a few jokes with the nurses and things. They obviously really liked him, so that was to me a really good sign that he was quite popular. Then the last thing I remember is being wheeled through those double doors into the theatre. I remember nothing more until I was being wheeled towards recovery. I actually woke up on the way to recovery. Didn't have to be shaken awake, or like I saw some people in recovery actually having a bit of trouble coming out of the anaesthesia. Not me, luckily. I woke up and I remember them saying everything went well. It's great. I remember being a bit dismayed because I had a drain, and I know that my surgeon doesn't use those routinely, but I guess I must have needed one. I don't know how long I was in recovery for. I think quite a while. Because I looked at the timestamps on the photos I took. I took some before I walked into the hospital. I took some in the pre-op area, and in the pre-op area it was timestamped at 6:50 a.m. and in the ward, as soon as after I'd had my surgery, it was 11:55 a.m. So I guess that whole time frame is much longer than I thought, considering the surgery itself is only 1 to 1.5 hours. I guess there's a lot of preamble and time and recovery afterwards, because that's quite a lot of time. What's it, 7, That's almost 5 hours. Yeah, that's ages. I hadn't realised quite how long that was actually. But as I said, I don't know how long the surgery went for. I don't know how long I was in recovery, but that whole time frame was much longer than I had anticipated. Okay, well that's really all from my surgery story. Oh, waking up in the ward, I was really quite out of it for a while. They got my PCA button ready with the endone in it. I started hitting that pretty hard. I think that may have been part contributor to my nausea, but really only had it that first day after surgery. And then that's about it. So the rest was just recovery. But yeah. Okay, so as I said, I liked hearing people's stories of surgery, exactly what happened. So that's what happened. And I'd actually moved rooms. That my hospital was very full at that time, and so I wasn't in the ward where my surgeon had his patients normally. So I had to get moved the next day up to the other ward, which was not a fun journey when I had such severe nausea and a face cloth over the top of my head to try and calm that down. It was very unpleasant being wheeled around a whole wing and a ward and crashing into things. Oh my goodness. Okay, anyway, that's it from me. I'll talk soon. Bye.